The Summer of Terror has made its final stop in 1995. We are back, Union Smack, right here, Hibiki TLD on YouTube, but it's not Union Smack without my co-host, the Maniac, Matt Tennant. What's going on, man? Welcome back. How you been? Where can everyone catch it?
You can catch me on Twitter, as per usual, at the Perfect Tenant. Log on to unionsmack.bigcartel.com where you can pick up the new Union Smack World Tour shirt and the official shirts from every one of Travis's shows. And fingers crossed, I found a home for the book, Travis. Lulu.com, I hope. And I say I hope because I did everything, like everything I told you off air last week, with the files and everything, and I've ordered a preview copy. That should be here this week or next. Like 8 to 12 days of post now in this fucking pandemic. It's ridiculous. So once that arrives and I okay it all, then I'll be able to give you a definite. But for now, it's looking like Lulu.com will be where I sell books in future.
Very nice. Some good news. Hopefully Lulu doesn't turn out to be doo-doo and they pick up the book.
Fingers crossed.
I got my fingers crossed for you, too. I got my fingers crossed that we can also make it through one more pay-per-view of 1995. We've done so well so far. We've only got one more to knock out, Matt.
You say that, but we're going to All the In Your Houses next, so...
Oh, no! I forgot! Shit!
So we're staying in 95 for the next 3-4 shows.
I'm my own worst enemy sometimes, I swear to Christ. Let me ask you this. Oh, yeah, by the way, as always on Twitter, at the HibikiTMD, hit that red button down below. Subscribe, all the goodness right here on YouTube for all pro wrestling, retro gaming, heavy metal podcasts, and Terry Bollea's bullshit. Also, catch me every Monday night, 11 to 12 a.m. Eastern on Broken Optics on YouTube, the Monday Night Melee. Here's a big question I have going into this. Did you guys in the UK have Stridex pads?
No, I don't. What the fuck is Stridex pads?
Stridex presents Summerslam. They were the little face wash pads that you use if you had zits and you're a teen. And I feel like Stridex brand logo was all over this show. Back to that, I think the blimp was Stridex and all. It just...
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we had like Stridex branded pads, but obviously we had stuff like that to get rid of zits and spots, etc. But casting my memory back 25 years, Travis, I can't remember anything like Stridex on shelves.
I kind of miss these days when WWE's pay-per-views were like Snickers presents or PlayStation presents. You know what I mean? Such a throwback.
Yeah. I used to love all that, and I used to love the PlayStation Presents ones because I always got excited, like young me, that they might bring this out as a game on PlayStation. Never happened though.
I think it was PlayStation Presents Bad Blood in your house. It's so sad. I know that.
God, you're aging yourself now.
But speaking of aging ourselves in 95, we have come to the second biggest show of the year, 1995, SummerSlam, pal, live from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Igloo. Cool name for an arena, by the way. This had a pretty good aesthetic. I mean, obviously they're using the same set from 94, which is fine. Good turnout, especially for the year 1995. I'm pretty sure this was a nearly sold-out arena, and I don't know how the fuck they did it considering the main event.
Yeah, I mean, the majority turned up for Shawn and Razor too. I'm pretty sure, and just put up with everything else. But like we said with In Your House too last week, like after King of the Ring, amazed that they managed to pack out an arena.
Yeah. But I still feel like at the end of the day, like I was saying, the name, sorry guys, we had some tech difficulties. We're back. The name WrestleMania sells out. You could put almost any main event there. It doesn't really matter for the most part. WrestleMania is going to sell out because it's WrestleMania. And I think this started getting like the mid to late 90s. We started getting to that area. The SummerSlams and the WrestleManias were going to pretty much sell out based on their name value alone.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's like, even today, when the product's not that great, everyone will tune into WrestleMania, whether you're a lapsed fan or not, because it's WrestleMania. And even with me, who I don't usually watch WWE pay-per-views now, but I'll watch the big four, or what once considered to be the big four, just because of nostalgia.
Exactly. And by 95, this is the seventh SummerSlam. And all the
Yes.
SummerSlams before were massive successes. And obviously, it had become the second biggest show of the year. This card was really lopsided. Half of it looked fucking stacked, and the other half was kind of a superstars taping for me.
Yes. And you sort of got that from the intro video as well, because it started off hyping the main event, which was, bad enough for Diesel and Mabel. And you thought, well, fine, this could obviously go on Superstars, but at least they're trying to hype it. And then they went into the Bret Hart and Jerry Lawler feud again. And I'll be honest, Travis, it's like I was looking forward to SummerSlam 95 before I pressed play on the network. And then, like 2 minutes in, and they again recap Bret Hart and Jerry Lawler like 2 years after it first began. And I'm just like, oh, fucking hell.
Just goes to show that WWE was kind of self-aware and knew that this main event was going to shit the bed, and how Shawn Michaels was totally being kind of groomed to be the next guy, because in that opening package they made a point for the ladder match to be the very last thing they talked about, like it was the main event.
Yeah, and it should have been the main event. I think
Should
we
have.
can both agree on that.
Oh my God, nothing, not even Bret could follow that. I don't care who Bret was out there with. He could usually get a decent match at best out of guys. Everything was pretty much dead after that ladder match, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like casket match and main event. It was just oh, Travis. Like SummerSlam ended with that ladder match for me.
Yeah, there's really nothing you need to watch after it. Dare I say it's probably the only thing you should watch on this pay-per-view.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one who was going to say it, but yeah, you probably. I mean, the opening match, which we'll get into in a minute, I didn't mind. The rest of it was just very bitty and touch and go.
Yeah. Well, let's get there right now. The show kicked off Vince McMahon, Jerry Lawler. Opening contest, Matt, which back in the day, I remembered a little bit. And over the past couple of years, I watched on my DVD, but I still didn't remember a lot from it. This on paper looks like it would be a kick ass match. And that's not far from the truth. Hakushi and the 1-2-3 Kid kicking off SummerSlam for 95. My God, what a trailblazing type innovative match that you didn't see in this company.
Yeah, I enjoyed it immensely, but that's become a running theme with 95 pay-per-views that we've done. It's like the first match usually isn't that bad, and then the show declines afterwards. But Hakushi and 1-2-3 Kid, very good job. I mean, Hakushi, showed why he should have been further up the card again. 1-2-3 Kid, I felt after this like drastically needed that heel turn that was coming.
Dare I say, this loss right here was kind of the first slow build to that. Like, he would start losing all the time and lose confidence, and finally,
Yeah.
he wanted to surround himself with money and just to get a win and blah blah blah. One thing that was very noticeable throughout this entire show on the hard cam in the very front row were like these three douchebag guys in white SummerSlam 95 shirts. They cheered every heel on this show. Do you know who I'm talking? And they booed, and I don't just mean they were loud as 10,000 people, it felt like. And they were very distracting a lot of the times.
Yeah, I mean, let's be fair though. They paid their money to be as distraction as they wanted, but yeah, I mean, it went against everything WWE wanted on this card. It's like they booed 1-2-3 Kid, and the cheers they gave Hakushi. It was quite the sight to see, actually.
I wonder if this is the match Vince saw, because of those three fucking knuckleheads in the front row. Like, let's turn him a baby face, pal. People love him. Like,
Probably, most probably. He got. It wasn't just them three though. I felt the crowd sort of really turned to Hakushi during this, especially his dive to the outside and his agility. I think WWE pushed him as a heel, but the fans looked at him and went, "Look, he can do things that hardly anyone else on this roster can."
We say
We
it every
like it.
time. We say it every time we bring up Hakushi on the show. He was the WWF's great Muta for the most part. And the same
Yeah.
thing happened with Muta in the NWA in '89. People started cheering him because what's there to fucking boo? You know what I mean? He's cool. He looks awesome.
Yeah.
His moves are unbelievable. And then when they brought him back in '92, they brought him back as a babyface. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I
but
just wish that, like we've said this like twice now. I think I just wish they'd have done more with Hakushi because this Hakushi had potential. What they turned Hakushi into was just a, a stereotypical Japanese babyface that they
I
had nothing from.
I feel totally robbed that we never got like one intercontinental title match with Shawn Michaels and Hakushi. Could you imagine that match with Shawn in his prime?
Do you know what? I'm going to say they probably had it on live events, but
Probably. House
could you
shows. Yeah.
not? I'd just rather, do you know what? I'd have rather have seen Shawn Michaels and Hakushi in the King of the Ring tournament rather than that Shawn Michaels and Karma match. It wouldn't have been for the Intercontinental title, but can you imagine what them two would have done with 15 minutes?
Good call. And he still could have got Kama TV time. He could have caused Taker the fucking match with Mabel and like a run-in. We wouldn't have to see
Exactly.
Kama work for 20 minutes straight. But
Oh,
I wish these two would have got 20 more minutes, to be honest. This was a very fast-paced, high-impact, just
yeah.
high-spotty match for 95, obviously. The finish, I don't think I've seen a finish like it to this day. And if you think about it, it's such a simplistic finish. I don't know why we haven't seen that more. The transition
I
from
mean,
like a spin kick.
did you like that? I thought it felt more of a TV ending than a pay-per-view ending. I wasn't so keen on the end, but
I think for
the
an
match
opening
itself.
match on pay-per-view, it was a fine ending. Now, if that was for the world title, we've got a problem. You know,
Let's be honest. If it had happened in the world title match, I'd have been fine with it happening
I
30
mean, Mabel
seconds
did
in.
do a spin kick. If you want to get technical, imagine Diesel catching that into the jackknife for the finish. That would have been unbelievable, actually.
I would have loved to have seen Diesel jackknife Mabel, just for the pure spectacle of it.
What was the high and low point of this match for you?
I'm going to say the low point for me was the end because everything else was very good. If I had to pick a one high spot, it would mm, probably be Hakushi's Arsenal. It's like he went at it full force here, like this was for the world title, and credit to him for that.
There's very few guys that come and go in just the years you and I have been watching pro wrestling that make it look so effortless. Hakushi comes to mind, Muda, fucking you throw Kota Ibushi in there for a modern guy. Everything just seemed like it came so natural to him. He literally like floated on air sometimes, like that Asai moonsault to the outside from like a cartwheel. Unbelievable,
Yeah,
unbelievable.
it was. I used to love that move as well when I was a kid, and it still pops me now. It's
Yeah, yeah.
just the wasted potential. I'm always going to say this about Hakushi. It's just such a shame.
I would recommend this match to anyone. Hell, if I'm making a best of Sean Waltman Blu-ray, I'm throwing this match on there in the compilation. Why not?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I don't recall like Sean Waltman having many more gripping matches like this after SummerSlam. Like the heel run, he'd team a lot with Sid. I know he'd have matches against Razor. I don't recall them being as gripping as this. So I'm going to
Yeah.
say, like, probably an unpopular opinion, but this was probably Sean Waltman's last great match until he was X-Pac.
I gotta agree. I mean, oh, it's six in the cruiserweight division, but still, like, yeah, I'm right there with you. I feel like the Bret match was obviously the best match of his entire career,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
'94. Oh, that match still holds up, but this has got to be in his top five. I feel like.
Oh yeah, definitely. Top three maybe if we just count his WWF pre X-Pac days, then I'd say top three.
Yeah, yeah. Where did that take us to next? Dare I ask?
This this took us to a cocaine-fueled Doc Hendricks with Mabel, and I'm astounded Mabel got a word in because Michael Hayes was all over the fucking place. He was shouting, screaming. I think acting like a child at one point. Like just, oh,
Mabel's promo here. I didn't hate it, and I thought I would. You
no,
probably
nor did
ignored
I.
this.
I liked this promo. I thought it was probably his best promo in his entire career. It was
Probably.
short.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, this is pretty goddamn good, actually. And by the way, who knew he had such a good evil laugh? Who knew?
Well, do you know what? It's a shame he didn't do more of this backstage during his short main event-ish run, because I believed Mabel here, and I think this one promo, Travis, was probably the best part of his entire heel run.
Yeah. What's your story, Big Daddy Fool? Yeah, it was good. Guys, we're not bullshitting you. Check this promo out. You're not going to hate it. Is it time to rev our engines?
Yes.
Oh, God.
What? Who ever looked at this on paper and went, "Well, this is SummerSlam quality"?
It's time to play the game, Matt. Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus Bob Sparkplug Holly. Fucking slow. Triple H, you could tell it was his first pay-per-view. He missed a few spots. I think he fucked up an Irish whip. It was clunky. The guys didn't really have any chemistry together. I will say the best part of this match, this is one of the best pedigrees I've ever seen anybody take, and I kind of miss when guys go to their knees when they take it. I feel like it made it look more vicious than when they just flop to their belly.
Yeah, I mean, Marty Garner probably took the best pedigree unintentionally, but
the way he took that pedigree is worthy of a Hall of Fame induction of its own. That he didn't kill himself.
Agreed. Like straight on the top of his head, but he must have come close to a broken neck.
What was he thinking the move was? Like, he'd have had to have seen one Triple H match before that. Did he think it was a Pearl River plunge? What the fuck did he think he was taking? I know we're off topic, but it's Bob Holly, guys. Give us a break.
It looked like the way he took it, and looking at it back like today, it's like he thought he was going over like a Pearl River plunge, but like Triple H just snatched him back at the last minute, and he head first into the canvas. And it's a good job he didn't put more force into it. Otherwise, he would be in a wheelchair right now.
And we'd never cheat you guys. You're looking at it right now. I had to throw it in there for you guys. We got your backs. But God bless Marty Garner wherever you're at. I like nothing about this match, man, at all. The fans gave two shits about Bob Holly and his entrance. Triple H had great heel heat for what it was. He was still essentially Jean-Paul Levesque. I mean, he didn't really change a thing. I remember a shot during Triple H's entrance where the cameraman went to some blonde lady in the front row and she like held her nose like he stinks. And Vince McMahon did like the biggest grandfather lie. He just thought it was the funniest fucking thing in the world. Just that was the best part of the match for me.
And you know what? Even the commentators didn't care because they were more focused on the British Bulldog entering the arena that we saw. For no reason.
A newly turned heel British Bulldog. Let's go there to get anywhere but this match. Yeah, they showed him walking in the building. This was the go home Raw was him turning on Diesel in a tag match against Mo and Mabel, and that was one of the most shocking things in pro wrestling from my childhood. I'm not gonna lie, it shocked the shit out of me, and it broke my heart at the same time because Bulldog was one of my guys.
Yeah, I mean, like he'd been a babyface ever since the British Bulldogs. You know, in the mid-80s, and all this time later, and it was like, wow. Literally, wow. But I think it was best for him in the end, and like the heel Bulldog, I think got much further in WWF in the mid to late 90s, at least up until 97, than a babyface Bulldog ever would have done.
And you know what? I know it's petty and it's superficial, but I think the haircut did him a world of good for that newly turned heel character too. The crew cut.
Yeah,
I think he desperately needed a new look.
Good.
Yeah,
he looked really fucking good. I don't understand why they showed him here. It's like I sat here, right, and I watched this match, and I've seen SummerSlam 95 several times, just like you, Travis, and I was racking my brain thinking, does he interfere in the main event? And I forgot. Nope. Like, surely that's why they're showing him entering the arena, like to build him up for the main event. No, you don't hear about him again all fucking night. What a waste of a spot.
I like to pretend like 25 years later, God rest his soul, that he missed his cue and he was supposed to run in, but he never did, and he just forgot because he was so coked off his tits. So
Can you imagine just found him passed out in his own bag backstage?
he's just back there doing a giant gagger of a line, then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh fuck, I was supposed to run in 45 minutes ago. The show's over. Shit. Oh well, it's just Mabel, you know." Yeah,
My
but it's
God.
fucking. I think it was just to maybe build the tease of it. It was probably a lot of people thought it was inevitable that he was going to run in, but I mean, I
Yeah.
usually most twists and turns are exciting. With this was kind of just what's the point? Like,
I was expecting so much more, and I'd seen this show, and I just couldn't remember. But you're right. And can I just say that was the most stereotypical British accent from an American
I'm
I've ever heard.
I'm sorry, you do an American accent.
I've done my American accent on this show several times.
Dear what? She speaks Cockney. I don't understand her. I can't do it. It turns into Australian. Give me a break. I can do Terry Bollea. I mean, didn't they
Dick
show
Van
Lex
Dyke,
too?
everyone.
Did they show Lex at one point doing the same thing and then just never back to Lex again?
Oh fuck! I think was Lex. No, Lex was in the main event, wasn't he? Lex was the one that ran
It was
in
yeah,
the
okay.
main event.
It made no sense. Why Lex?
It's like, oh, I mean, I could. We'll go. I don't know. Should we mention it now? It's like
We'll get there.
Lex ran it. Yeah, we'll get fine. We'll get there.
But it ended up being a moot point anyway because he was in WCW like 2 weeks later. But yeah, match. Well, what was up next before the next match, Matt?
We saw highlights of fucking hell, War on the Water, WWF stars against Pittsburgh firefighters, Philadelphia firefighters in a tug of war over water, and this was like Bam Bam Bigelow and everyone who they couldn't get on the card.
Mabel was there too, I think, helping.
Was he? Oh, I'll be honest, I didn't pay that much
I
attention to
remember
them.
being like Man Mountain Rock, Mabel, and a bunch of fat guys, basically.
Yeah, well, that's what you want for a tug of war, isn't it?
Could you imagine if they lost to the firemen as a shoot? Would they like reshoot it? Like do it over?
Probably, yeah. You're gonna keep doing it until you win.
It's just like why not the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Pittsburgh Why not athletes? Why just I mean, I know God bless firemen, they're heroes and all that, but these are fucking professional wrestlers. Not all firemen are like jacked up. They're just normal dudes, you know?
Yeah. Mabel could have won this on his fucking own.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you're not getting that into the water. I don't care how hard you pull.
Thank God they didn't pull USS Intrepid and air this on pay-per-view though. So thankfully, it's God. Up next, it's tag team action time, I believe, right?
Oh, yeah. Blue Brothers versus the Smoking Guns for absolutely nothing. Like, you couldn't get Owen Hart on this card, but you could get the Blue Brothers and the Smoking Guns in a meaningless tag team match.
It was meaningless, but this match wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I mean, for what it was and who the Guns had to work with, decent.
I think
The fan, and for what it's worth,
short.
the fans reacted really well for the finish. They popped. I mean, the
They,
Guns
I think the short run time helped it, and it was just filler. But I mean, I'm not going to say it was great. I'm not going to say I enjoyed it, but you're right. It could have been a lot worse. For me, the Smoking Guns had run their course by summer '95. Like they'd been there 2 and a bit years already.
will strap in because they're about to have 2 more title runs. So they're the ones that dethrone Owen and Yoko and Raw a couple months after this, I think.
On Raw, Travis, you couldn't put this on SummerSlam. You had to just throw it on a random Raw.
It's like the Jacob and Eli Blue were getting them ready. Like they were like, what?
Jesus.
I think this is the last we'd see the Blue Brothers. Maybe like one more appearance in like the fall until like what DOA in '98.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
3 fucking years.
Jesus Christ.
What? We're never going to talk about them again. What did you honestly think of the Blue Brothers and this gimmick with Uncle Zebekiah? I feel like In the 80s, it would have probably gone off a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, in the 80s, they could have passed them off as, you know, rough, merciless yokels, if you like inbred backwater dwellers, but maybe like an 80s white family, if you like. But
I could
in
have seen them
95,
being very steady competition for Demolition. I mean, they wouldn't have beat Demolition,
yeah,
but they would been still like a Powers of Pain type deal.
definitely. But in 95, they were just like, I've used the word stereotypical quite a lot tonight, but, the stereotypical country bumpkins, just like, with their bull riding manager, and it just wasn't very good at all.
And Uncle Zebekiah is probably one of the most, and God bless Dutch Mantel, but in this role, one of the most useless managers in that company's history. He never really said or did anything. He might have used that shitty branding iron once on like a jobber on Superstars, but what the fuck was Uncle Zebekiah's purpose, in my opinion?
I have no idea. Didn't they put him with Bradshaw when he was
Yep.
Justin Hawk Bradshaw?
They did, and they gave him a little bit more as a mouthpiece, but really, the Hawk, Justin Bradshaw, carried the load on promos, so he wasn't really even needed then.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was just good grace to give Dutch Mantel a job, but
Right. I get it.
yeah.
At the expense of good television, but I get it.
Yeah. Can I just say that this match was the second match, actually, the third match to have no video package for its actual story. Even though the opening match had a video package of Hakushi losing to Barry Horowitz a week before SummerSlam. But it's like the beginning of this show, like with 3 matches in now, just felt like a Superstars taping in that there was no video packages to the matches. There was no hype to them. They were just thrown on to warm everyone up for Razor and Shawn.
I totally agree. And this was the first time a babyface won all night. And I mean, it was the first feel good moment, and that probably led to the reason the pop was so big, too. That first, I got to say, one of the most underrated tag finishers of all time for me is the Sidewinder from the Smoking Guns. I love that fucking move so much. I wish a team would bring it back. Maybe put a little twist on it, but I love the Sidewinder.
I mean, it was it was fine, Travis. I mean, I can't remember what my favourite one was. I think it was probably the Steiners with the reverse Doomsday device.
Yeah. Ooh, that was nasty. Very
Yeah.
nice. Oh, let's get off this match. Jesus Christ. Smoking Guns get the win, and it probably went 5 minutes, but that's probably way too long, too. It was still decent, but I didn't even think, like, this should have been pre-show,
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. This should have been pre-show. The winner gets Owen and Yoko in a tag team match on the actual card.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And the 4 minutes or 5 minutes this match should have been tacked on to the Kid and Hakushi extra 4 or 5 minutes. Why not?
Yes. And Triple H and Sparky Plug should have been cancelled completely and given to a tag team championship match.
Not going to argue. Now it's video package time, right?
Yes.
Now we're getting into good shit, pal. We are getting into one of the biggest stars of all time.
I can't believe you just said that. You've just called Barry Horowitz one of the biggest
it's time to review our very first ever Barry Horowitz match on this show. I can't believe it.
That fucking theme music. Jesus Christ.
What? Go for it. Do it.
I'm going to give him credit. Like, the video package made Barry Horowitz look like the biggest underdog babyface the company ever had. Right? They did a sterling job with that. The match, Travis, like, the first match they had, legitimate shock. Like, oh my God, this man who has never won in WWF in 10 years maybe has like pulled it out against one of their bigger mid-card stars. Great. That was great. And then, the same with Hakushi. He beat Hakushi on Superstars. Yeah, fine, I can believe that. But this went, what, 5-6 minutes too long. This bored the arse off of me, and this should have been a quick 3-4 minute match where Barry Horowitz looked like he was going to win, and then Skip got his heat back.
Thank you. Because that was going to be my hot take that Horowitz should have lost this match, but I'm so fucking happy we're on the same page. Go on.
See, I thought you were going to go the other way. I thought you were going to say, no, Barry should have won, and that was that. But
absolutely not, because even though he was one half the tag champions after this match right here was the nail in the coffin for Chris Candido in this company. Killed him.
Yep, completely agree. Like, was this the second match or the third match he lost to him? I think they were saying third.
This was the third, because the second was Horowitz had the last 10 minutes on the Action Zone or something. And he lasted 10 minutes. So this was the third fucking loss to Horowitz. Could Sonny be banging Shawn Michaels from behind the scenes any more obviously than the booking Chris Candido in this? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's really fucking sad, because the Chris Candido I saw in ECW was unbelievable. And just to see that talent squandered like this, like, ugh.
I mean, but it was bad enough that they put him basically in a spandex leotard and said to him, "You're a gym instructor now. Get out there and just, hop around the ring." But to say, like, second, third biggest show of the year, you're losing to this jobber again on worldwide pay-per-view. Just disgusting treatment.
And you know what? Shame on Vince McMahon for making it. And I know he's notorious for this, but on this match, maybe more than any other I ever heard, making it so obvious that Horowitz was going to win, driving home the fact that Barry would get a contract if he won the match, and just all those nuances. Like, it was so fucking obvious. And Vince had made it so obvious, it was the point, like, all right, can we just see the finish then? Since you're just going to give it away, basically. There was no real... I was disappointed in the crowd pop too. Were you? I thought the crowd pop would be a little bit even bigger. Like, they were happy, but nothing like the first time or the second time. Mm. Now they were just kind of like, it was predictable.
Yeah. Yeah. And Joe, it was even more criminal than that. They did nothing with Barry Horowitz after this.
I don't know if that's criminal. I mean, I don't know. He's a good worker.
He was always a good jobber, but to sacrifice Chris Candido to a man you're then going to relegate back to jobber status after SummerSlam.
Putting it that way, I totally agree. Like, I mean, you just destroyed a guy basically to give another guy nothing. He should have got like at least one IC title shot or fucking some relevant angle after this. But no, he was in a shitty makeshift tag team with Hakushi for no goddamn reason, and then just released in like early '96, gone just like that.
Yeah, and I would have loved to have seen Chris Candido in an IC title program against Shawn or Razor.
Especially Shawn, knowing what we know now and all the stiff shots Candido would have thrown in.
Yeah. Potatoing him left or right.
I mean, Razor too, because all the clique hated Candido. I mean, there's so much drama there and a big can of worms, but that's not why we're here. People talk about the Mantars and the TL Hoppers and all that shit, Matt, but this gimmick is never really mentioned when the worst gimmicks of all time, and I got to put it up there. I hate this gimmick. I hate the name. It's like nails on a chalkboard to me. It's so fucking stupid. Like, this is what you came up with? Like, Simon Dean looks like Hulkamania compared to this. I mean, at least there was a little bit more effort put into Simon Dean, where he actually looked like an infomercial guy or something. When have you ever seen an infomercial that looked like the Body Donnas? It's just stupid.
Oh yeah. Did you hate Chris Candido being given the Skip gimmick more, or did you hate Tom Pritchard being relegated to Zip more?
Chris Candido, because I think there was a way more upside to Candido than Tom Pritchard. No offense to Tom Pritchard. Tom Pritchard was already like 40 in '96. So I mean,
oh, I will never, as long as I live, I will never forget that fucking haircut Tom Pritchard had.
And it's even worse, going back to Candido real quick, it's even worse when you go back now and you watch him in Smoky Mountain before this and the potential. And like I said, ECW after this, where he was just money and just, God, it's so sad.
They wasted a massive opportunity here. with Chris Candido.
So, and just as Chris Candido too, like they should have done the no gimmicks needed thing in this time because it was tailor made for this era of WWF. I don't need a fucking gimmick. I'm not a trash man. I'm a wrestler. And this elitist heel just gimmick, it would have went off without a hitch, and we were robbed of classics. Candido versus Owen, Shawn, Razor, like we said, Candido and Bret. My God, the list
Oh,
goes on and on, you know.
could have been a completely different landscape in WWF in the mid-90s if they'd have took Chris Candido seriously.
Just goes to show, man, how nasty and ugly politics are in wrestling sometimes, unneededly.
Yeah.
Because one guy
Yeah.
can't keep his dick in his pants backstage. Shawn.
But saying that, yeah, I think, I mean, maybe it will work out for the best for Candido because he was much more suited to the ECW style. Like, not the hardcore style so much, but the way Paul Heyman would let him go out there and actually fucking wrestle with the likes of, Lance Storm and company. Like,
Yeah.
just, if he'd have stayed in WWF, he'd have been forced to water down what he could do and, tailor make it to whatever top star was there at the time if they couldn't match his ability. So I think it worked out for the best for Candido career-wise, but he could have earned a lot more money and had a lot more stardom if they'd have just taken the shackles off.
At first, it seemed like it was going to work out for the best because of that free reign he was giving. Because Chris Candido off a leash was so entertaining to me. And like he was doing like the Fargo strut. I remember in an angle in ECW where like he got his ear hurt by Sabu. Like he wore the headgear, but he jog around Sonny like Rick Steiner during it. He was just so charismatic, like one of the most underrated charismatic guys I've ever seen. But I think when WCW folded, that obviously led to a lot of depression and substance issues and blah blah blah. And if WCW would have stayed in business, I think eventually he would have won the world title. Eventually, I mean, how could he not?
I'd
Just
have
wrong,
loved to have said that.
me too. Wrong place, wrong time, and just sadly, I think it led to a lot of his substance abuse. And we all know, the freak staph infection that made him pass away from surgery. But yeah, and one of the biggest crimes in pro wrestling history, in my opinion, is Chris Candido, hands down.
Yeah, can't disagree with that at all.
But I will cheer us up because after Barry gets the win, we're getting some Barry Didinsky action in a shirt that I looked on for eBay immediately. I need this goddamn t-shirt. Pitch it, Matt. It's interactive.
I didn't get that bit. You pitch it. I didn't get that bit.
You didn't get the bit where Horowitz won, and while he was literally exiting the ring, Didinsky's there in the aisle pitching the brand new Barry Horowitz t-shirt that's so fucking ugly and looks like shit, and it's just like a picture of him in his shirt and glasses. And he goes, "Look, it's your own shirt, Barry. It's interactive." And on the back is a handprint, so you can pat yourself on the back, kind of like the Swagger shirt where you put your hand on your chest, just on the back. It was amazing, and I need it. I need it now.
Fuck me, I did not get that. Maybe I did, and I was just writing notes and didn't take any notice, but definitely do not remember that.
Well, I went above and beyond for this one, Matt. I actually busted out my DVD from the anthology for this, so maybe that's why.
There you go. Maybe they cut out the network version, but now I'm gonna have to go upstairs tomorrow and get my SummerSlam '95 DVD and rewind it, fast forward it, I should say, to the end of that match just to see this fucking t-shirt.
I promise you it's there because by the end of it, like Barry Horowitz, he can't talk. He's so excited and flabbergasted. And his line goes, literally, "Hi, Mom, I did it, man." That's literally what he said. It was, oh, God. And of course, I mean, give him credit where credit's due. Lawler had some tremendous takes on fucking Horowitz in this match. Oh, my God. Just destroying it.
Yes, it was. I mean, the match went way too long, but, Lawler on commentary. And there was some good moments to this. It just beat the life out of me, Travis.
This match had really good fundamentals. I think that's fair to say. Like there were some nice transitions and sequences, but nothing really that point to the next gear in the match.
No, it slowed to a crawl, and it stayed there for the most part until Hakushi appeared at the end.
Can I just say something now? And this might, I mean, she's a piece of shit in real life now, and a lot of people don't like her anyway, but I think going back, Sunny was so overrated as a manager. She was fucking annoying and not in a good way. Not like that annoying like Jimmy Hart with the megaphone or Bill Alfonso with the whistle. It was just like, shut the fuck up. You're not good at your
Yeah,
job. You're just good looking. It's just
and
not, it doesn't hold up for me.
and it was worse for me when she transitioned onto commentary.
Oh,
Like just that fucking voice for like 15 minutes a match.
what was that Shotgun Saturday Night they tried her out on in commentary? It was just unbearable.
I think so. And then she went on to a pay per view, didn't she? Well, maybe it was one of like the British only pay per views, like One Night Only or something. But I
She came out
remember
for
her
like a
sitting next
match.
to
Yeah.
yeah, I remember sitting next to Vince on commentary and just blah 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 blah. Was it Jerry Lawler who said something about Shawn Michaels during that, and she was just like, "Well,
Who knows? I can't keep up with her escapades, man. I remember like she would always come out for like Max Mini matches and commentate or
God,
referee, one of the two. I don't know. Hopefully, this is the last we have to talk about a Barry Horowitz match anytime soon. I know we're going to In Your
I
House next again. I don't think he
yes,
wrestled in it.
I don't think he was on any in your houses unless it was just like a 2 minute squash to get I don't know some fucking dickhead over, but
We
no, I don't
dodged,
think he was on any in your house.
we dodged a big Jewish bullet in that one.
Oh, move on. Right.
Up next, the franchise. Wait a minute. That's not the franchise, Matt.
What did they do to Shane Douglas? Oh my god. The
What's crazy?
hair, the
What's crazy about this
glasses.
gimmick is he was actually a teacher in real life before he got into wrestling. So I guess because you know how back in the day the standard was Vince would bring a guy in like Wild Bill Irwin, right? He's like, "What are you into?" And Bill said, I was a really good amateur hockey player. Make him the goon." And that was the case of
Yeah.
this. You just got a guy who a year before this may have cut the promo of the decade, not named Austin 316, throwing the NWA belt down, saying
Mm-hmm.
fuck you, Ric Flair, fuck you, Dusty Rhodes, blah, 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 ECW, to this.
And he hated. I know for a fact that he hated it. I've read so many places that he just despised it and despised WWF for giving him it. And looking at it, like you can't blame him. He had no power to say no, obviously, but what a fall from grace.
For what it's worth, every time he did one of these segments, it seemed like he was trying to make it work. He really was. And he was on the cusp of it getting over with me, but the material was just so bad, it didn't stand a chance, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. And I mean,
another guy, if this was 1987, this would have got over just like the $1 Million Man, I feel like. Right up there with that. Just
oh,
wrong era.
agreed. But do you think, like, if they'd have just brought in Shane Douglas as Shane Douglas and had him do his ECW stuff in WWE, do you think he'd have been world champion, or do you think Shawn and then would have just stopped that dead?
No, he would have been nothing. He would have been like essentially he was forced to have a gimmick because this was the era where everybody not named Shawn or Diesel or Razor or Bret had to have a fucking gimmick. There was no getting around it. You're getting a gimmick. Now, had you brought the franchise in '97, could be a whole new world of professional wrestling we could be talking about today, just like with Candido. And that's crazy because those
Yeah.
two guys are in the triple threat in ECW.
It's such a shame. Do you think if they just stuck around the Dean Douglas gimmick would have gone further?
I don't think it would have. I think it would have gone further. I don't think it would have been prominent, but I think it would have been one of those things where like he would have trashed the gimmick on TV and said, "I'm the not fuck, but I'm the fucking franchise," something like that. You know what I mean? Kind of like
Yeah.
one of the most amazing things they ever did was that sit down interview with Mick Foley on Raw, where he was for the first time out of character talking about his home movies and stuff. It could have been something like that too, where like you want me to be this car, or the Jeff Jarrett interview on Raw. Remember that in '90s? I think we reviewed that before.
I think we have, yeah.
Something like that. And could you imagine the franchise Shane Douglas in a world title angle with Stone Cold Steve Austin in their prime?
Yes, I could have. And I think that would have been like the culmination of the Dean Douglas character, just like years of that to the point where Shane Douglas just breaks the character and goes, "Do you know what? I'm not doing this stupid shit anymore." And then you bring out the franchise to challenge Austin for the title.
And why I say it could be a whole different world of wrestling, because at the time they took another upstart babyface who was a tweener and getting really over with the crowd and made him their corporate champion to go against Steve Austin in the biggest successful rivalry of all time. Could have been the corporate champion Shane Douglas. Could you imagine? Like, he could have done that shit where fuck these gimmicks and blah blah, and the fans were starting to get behind him, and all of a sudden he turned at Survivor Series and joined the corporation.
See
My God.
that history so different, Travis, if we'd have had our way. But like Chris Candido, it worked out the best, I think, for Shane Douglas.
Yeah, until he went back to WCW and he fucked up his credibility, I feel like, because
Well, yeah. It worked out best for Shane Douglas when he went back to ECW. WCW, Shane Douglas, terrible.
I know he left because a lot of heat with Paul Heyman and not getting paid, but I mean, if he was getting paid and let's say none of that happened, he should have never left ECW. He should have always stayed there until it folded.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And if people left because they had problems with Paul Heyman not paying them, he'd not have had a fucking roster for 2 or 3 years.
By the way, there was a segment here. He had a chalkboard backstage, and he gives Barry Horowitz the grade of S for slacker, taking credit for other people's work, because Hakushi did the run-in, did the leapfrog over skip, distract him, roll up by Horowitz. That was it. That was the backstage angle. This didn't lead to a feud with Douglas and Horowitz. This meant fucking nothing. It was just an excuse to get him 2 minutes TV time. That's it.
So I prefer to look at it like they were building up these angles for the feud with Razor, which would like kick off later on in the show. Like, just show him here, show him criticizing this, and then finally there's one guy that will stand up to him and say, "No, you're not going to do that to me."
Where does that take us to next, Matt?
That took us to Todd Pettengill with Shawn Michaels. They looked at the WrestleMania 10 ladder match, and then Shawn, who was heavily sweating, like he looked like he'd been masturbating for about a week before this event.
He doesn't have to masturbate. Sonny's in the company now, Matt. What are you talking about?
That is true.
Do that anymore.
That is true.
I will say he looked fucking irritated by Todd Pettengill every step of the way, because Todd's initial question was, how does one prepare for this match? And Shawn came off like the most irritated person in the world. Like, first of all, you don't prepare for this type of match. He just seems so pissed off.
His ego, we all know, it's legendary in wrestling, but maybe he was the reason that Todd Pettengill got relegated to like pre-shows and all that.
Who knows? Because I've seen interviews with like Todd and Bret backstage too, where Bret gave him the same shit. Steve Austin would do it to Todd. Todd Pettengill, I mean, we praise him. Like, God bless him, but he's a fucking dork. Like I could immediately, like, having to work with that guy, be annoyed by him instantly, and having to be around him all the time.
I mean, I could see where you're coming from, but he was just, poor Todd was just doing his job. Come on.
Poor Todd. Hashtag poor Todd. I mean, honestly, besides the sweatiness and the irritableness, this was basically every other Shawn Michaels 95 babyface promo, you'd say?
Yeah. Says he's got nothing other than the Intercontinental title and blah de blah. Feel sorry for Shawn.
At least he didn't whine about anybody calling him on his birthday this episode, man.
He seemed to whine about everything else other than that, yeah.
Up next, where are we at?
We're at the WWF Women's Championship, and yes, they did still have one in 95. Alundra Blaze versus Bertha Faye, and I love Bertha Faye's theme tune. It might be one of my favourite theme tunes of all time.
Just Harvey piping in the, oh, baby. Yeah.
You do that way too well.
Bertha Faye has made it to Union Smack. What a star-studded debut episode. So much talent making their debut this week, Matt.
Yes. I mean, I don't know whether you can call her talent. I don't know.
It's
I
crazy
was
because
never.
in Japan, as Ronda Singh, she was fucking awesome. She was.
Yeah.
She was up there with an Aja Kong, a Bull Nakano. Totally different.
And then they saddle her with Bertha Faye, and it's just like, okay.
Could Vince make it any more obvious from so many gimmicks he's created over the years that he just hates fat people with a passion, Matt?
No,
Oh,
he
they're
could.
heel
No.
because they're fat.
Oh
Well,
dear.
well, let's be real quick. Sorry to cut you off. What was there that was heelish about Bertha Faye? She was bubbly. She wore bright colors. Essentially, she was obese Bailey. She wasn't a heel, other than she was heavy, and Vince thinks it's disgusting. That's it.
Yeah. You must be a bad person if you're overweight,
Fat
according to Vince
Bailey.
McMahon.
I don't know why I never registered now that it's Fat Bailey. Jesus God.
Oh, now I'm just picturing an overweight Bailey in my head.
Could Alundra Blaze pull any more of a Shawn Michaels and make it so obvious that she wasn't going over in this match during the entire match in her entrance? She looked like she'd rather be anywhere else.
She did. She looked annoyed and bored at the same time, and it was just like, let's get this over with. And that's how she wrestled, just like exhibition match.
What did you think of the actual in-ring? Because I thought it was going to shit the bed way more than it did. It's no masterpiece by any means, and the ending was a complete fuck up because Alundra Blaze
Yeah.
kicked out, but I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was gonna.
I mean, it was. She looked like she was struggling to do anything with Bertha Faye, but I think, yeah, in reality, it was as good as it was going to be, considering that Alundra Blaze couldn't really, do the majority of her moves on her, and obviously Bertha Faye, she had limited moveset in '95.
How great was Harvey Whippleman as a manager for Bertha Faye, man?
I found the whole Harvey Wimble and Bertha Faye thing quite creepy, and I still do watching it back. Just like this little, like this chubby chaser. That's what they call them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just lusting after this overweight, obese woman. And can I just say, Jerry Lawler's buns of cinnamon line? That was great. But like I don't care if a woman's overweight, etc. But please, did the cameraman have to zoom in on her thighs and ass when she was climbing the rope? Like it went
Yes.
right in.
Yes, he did. He got the gimmick over, pal.
Jesus, that was the low point of the match for me.
I will say that Ronda Singh, Bertha Faye, whatever you want to call her, is like the best sport in the world, and is like so self-aware and had no problem making fun of herself because after she got the win with honestly a little decent sit-down power bomb, which was a botch, Alundra Blaze kicked out. I don't. It
Yeah.
might have been the finish, but I don't think Alundra Blaze got the memo that was the finish. She cut a post-match promo. I don't want to talk about any more of the match. We got a new champion. The crowd was shocked. I was shocked as a kid because this would have been like a throwaway match. Jim Ross is back in the company, comes down to interview Bertha Faye, goes to put his arm around her. Harvey Whippleman blows a gasket. Get your hands off my girl, Ross. I'm happily married, Harvey. Thank you very much. And then Bertha Faye, such a good sport, says she's going to put the belt around her slim, fast waist and makes fun of herself.
Yeah, it was nice to see her send herself up like that and her weight, and obviously got to be a good sport to take the fucking gimmick on, for a start. But the promo was fine. Harvey Wimpleman, I think, was this? It might just be me, but was this the best Harvey Wimpleman ever was as a manager?
Probably, I think other than this, probably Sid, but that was only because he was booked so high on the card with Sid. But I just think every little detail about this, with like the lipstick on his face, his tie kind of messed up, like they were making out before it. The way that Bertha Faye would do a move and they would pan to Harvey on the outside, and the way that he did this enthusiastic clap and how he can't believe it, no one else is clapping with him. It was great. I agree. This is the best I've ever seen Harvey Whippleman because, to be honest, God bless him, he's one of my least favorite managers of all time, hands down.
He never really had anything to do like as a manager, though. Like with all his other clients, Bobby Heenan was always in his clients' rivalries and stuff. But I think this is the first time Harvey Whippleman really got like a storyline that he could get his teeth in and run with. And God bless him, he did it, and it worked very well.
It's crazy because Harvey Whippleman, Downtown Bruno, whatever you want to call him, he was brought in at the request of Sid Vicious as a favor to Sid. And to think how long Harvey Whippleman stayed with that company, I mean, he transitioned to a referee after this and then be the women's champion for one night in the Attitude Era. But crazy.
Harvina, yes.
Yeah, Harvina. I mean, God bless him. That's all you can say. Grit and determination, man, gets you a hell of a payday.
Yeah, it does indeed.
Where are we at next? Dare I fucking ask?
Oh, you know exactly where we are next.
I know.
We are a video pack. At least it got a video package, Travis, for the Undertaker versus Kamala, and the only thing this video package did was remind everyone that this had been going since April. And April since WrestleMania, and none of it was ever interesting. Not one fucking minute of it.
Thank God after this they stopped with the creatures of the night bullshit and the planted fans in the crowd, the gothic fans. I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it then and I hate it now.
And we had a little backstage interview with. Was this the most Undertaker ever spoke in 5 years?
I think so. Yeah.
Like, I thought he was going to go on and on and on. Like, just wouldn't stop.
The melting down the urn thing, in a sense, thinking about it, hindsight 2020, I think at this time they were finally trying to humanize the character and blah, blah, blah. But by doing that with this character, you were essentially stripping away things that made him special and stand out in the first place. We didn't want to see The Undertaker talk a lot at all. That's why Paul Bearer was there. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's me, but I feel like that's what they were going for. And it didn't really work until like 97 when they started humanizing him more. After the Buried Alive match with Mankind and he resurrected, then we got the good booking of how his human side should be, I feel like. We started hearing him talk with good promos.
Yeah, totally agreed. What wasn't good, Travis, was this match. Now, imagine, right, you've been in the audience for In Your House 1, and you've seen The Undertaker and Karma in the dark match there. And then you're in the audience for In Your House 2, and you saw The Undertaker versus Karma in a dark match, casket match. And then you tune into SummerSlam to see 16 and a half minutes of the exact same thing you saw in the dark match at In Your House.
Hell, this was probably worse than how could this be any... There was nothing to this match. And I even texted you immediately after watching. I'm like, in your Undertaker book, did you talk about how fucking blown up he was doing nothing? But he looked exhausted from nothing. I don't know if he was selling or what it was because the urn wasn't there anymore. But this match was a headlock, a punch, a kick, standing in the casket a little bit, and a tombstone for me. That was it.
Yeah, that was the... it was punch, kick, headlock, repeat until tombstone at the end.
This is one of the worst. I'd rather watch Come At Me. I would rather watch Kamala and Taker from SummerSlam than this match again, any day.
My God.
Because at least that one wasn't given 16 fucking minutes. And the craziest part about this match too is they put this on an Undertaker compilation DVD, his deadliest matches or something years later, which blows my mind. This made it on a compilation. Like this should be on a DVD of his shittiest matches or forgotten matches that should never be released.
Yeah, totally agree. It was abysmally bad. And the best part of this for me was Paul Bearer racing around the ring, taking his jacket off, ready to fight Ted DiBiase.
Yeah, we had never seen this side of Paul Bearer like that. They said it on commentary. Lawler was busting. I'm like, what's he gonna do? What's his fat ass gonna do? DiBiase's a former wrestler. But yeah, I'm with you. That was the best part of the match because it was so unexpected, and I didn't remember that from back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I didn't remember this match. Like, we're not going to go into it too much because there isn't much to go into. But this could have been 6 minutes, Travis. Was 10 minutes allocated elsewhere.
You know how our listeners, I like to throw in pictures of the match we're talking about. I mean, you guys have probably seen literally 6 or 7 pictures of this match by now with the same move. That's all it did. There's like probably the most boring I'm ever going to have to hunt and peck for pictures on a match was this. I could probably just use one picture for this whole segment, to be honest.
They're going to be like, lazy bastard, he's used the same picture 7 times.
The craziest part about this match to me is Charles Wright wasn't awful. Especially, I've seen him have some decent matches with Papa Shango. Now, his later years as the Godfather, not exactly bangers, but he's better than this, for Christ's sakes. Jesus God. And these two, you hear the stories about the Bone Street Crew and that clique backstage. These guys are like best friends. So you would think they would have like this amazing chemistry that him and Yoko had. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Nope. Not 1 ounce of chemistry whatsoever. It was if they were meeting for the first time and they'd never got together before to discuss the match, and it looked horrible. I can't describe how bad this match looked to people listening.
It makes me thankful of that potential Papa Shango and Undertaker Attitude Era feud that we never got it. I'm so glad we never got it now that I've seen this.
Yeah, same here.
Is this in your top 3 worst Undertaker matches? I mean, you wrote the book.
I'm not good question. I mean, he had a lot of terrible matches against the Ultimate Warrior. But I think if we're talking about aired matches that people saw, Giant Gonzalez at Mania 9 has to be number 1.
I think Mabel at In Your House 95 in December has got to be up there.
And not Yokozuna, sorry, Kamala at Survivor Series and SummerSlam 92. Even later on, Austin, Undertaker, Triple H at the UK No Mercy 99 was absolutely horrendous. He's had a lot of bad matches, especially in the early days. But I mean, for length time, like 16.5 minutes, this has to be at least in, I'm going to say, the top 3.
This went almost as long as the amazing match on our last episode with Jeff Jarrett and Shawn Michaels. How crazy is that?
It's ridiculous. Like, I mean, I'm assuming they booked this for like nearly 20 minutes because they thought like they're going to have chemistry. They're going to be able to come up with new ways to, put the Undertaker in peril and then have him come back in the end. But no, nothing like that whatsoever.
Say what you want, shitty match, terrible angle, anything given. The loudest reaction on the show was Bret and The Undertaker, hands down. Shawn is at a close second, but nowhere near the Taker reception here.
Which is,
those 3 guys we were talking about that cheered every heel on this show wasn't cheering the heel in this match. That goes to speak to how over The Undertaker was and how cool that gimmick was for its time.
Yeah, completely agree. I just wish this had been better. Because, I mean, what would The Undertaker have after this? He'd have Mabel and, come back at Survivor Series and the crushed face. And 1995 was not a good year for Mark Calloway in the ring.
He had about 2 more years left of being Vince's giant killer. That was his job. He fought all the big nasty giants that were brought in until in like early 97. They put him in the title picture finally. For the most part. Yeah. I mean, he had that match with Bret at the Rumble 96, but then nothing after that. He just feuded with another monster with the name Diesel at WrestleMania.
And, I mean, Mankind was the exception in summer of 96, but then they give him the fucking Executioner, Terry Gordy, just, banal.
Please get off of this match before it just makes you go into a depression for like a month because of how big of a fan you are of the Undertaker. Where are we up next?
Oh, we are a video package for Bret Hart versus Isaac Yankem. And obviously, we go back through the fucking Bret Hart Jerry Lawler feud, and we see the King of the Ring kiss my foot match. I'm tired of talking about Bret Hart and Jerry Lawler, Travis.
I think this is it, though, Matt. I think we've reached the promised land as far as that.
Have we finally come to the end of it? Like
Because
after
we're
all this
not
time?
reviewing Monday Night Raws, because there was one more where Lawler was suspended in a cage when Yankem and Bret wrestled. So yeah, this is it. The end of the road for Lawler and Bret for us.
Do you know what? The feud went 2.5 years, and I feel like we've been talking about it for as long.
Longer. Feels. Isaac Yankem has made it to Union Smack, the third debut this week. Oh my God, this has to be one of the worst gimmicks they've ever come up with. Hands down, I don't give a fuck. You can argue that, debate me. Yes, he had a great run as Kane after this. What the fuck were they thinking? Nobody likes the dentist, pal. I can picture it like I'm in the meeting now. Nobody could raise their hand besides Jim Cornette and argue this fucking gimmick?
Yeah. I mean, Bruce Prichard wouldn't have argued it. He'd have just stuck Vince's cock slowly and quietly under the table and done what Vince said. But
great idea, Vince. That sounds good. Yeah. I think this was dead on arrival. This is up there with a Manslaughter and a Duke Drosy. You could see it on the entrance too. Like I was paying close attention. By the way, Isaac Yankem's entrance here felt like it took an hour on itself. It was so long. He walked so slow with his little dental bag and his weird goggles. But I was watching the fans in the aisle and the reactions. They weren't scared. They weren't booing him. They were just like, "What the fuck is this?" I think I literally saw two people mouth, "What the fuck?" Like it didn't get over it all. Even at 95, people saw right through it.
Yeah, agreed. And you know what? Also, the character was bad enough, but they placed it wrong on the card. Like nobody really, everyone was drained after that Undertaker match, and then you bring out Isaac Yankem, another giant who's going to go. What did this 10, 12 minutes maybe?
At least. This it went 10 or 12, but it felt longer than Undertaker and Kama because this match was just as slow a pace. And I was kind of, intrigued going back. Like, I don't really remember this match. Kane and Bret. Kane was pretty good big man, one of the best ever. This might be good. Nope. I was wrong again. 0 for 2, Matt.
And considering this was Bret Hart, like, what were they doing? Like, even Bret Hart couldn't get a good match out of a very young Kane.
Very young, very green, but to be honest, he looked kind of wise beyond his years in the ring. He didn't have that awkwardness that Triple H did earlier in this show, where you could just see the nerves on him. It looked like he had been doing pay-per-views for a while. He looked right at home, for what that's worth.
I mean, maybe it was the fact that, obviously Triple H had come from WCW and maybe knew that this was his last chance to make it big.
Right.
As where Glenn Jacobs had been, where had he been? The USWA for a little bit. Smoky Mountain, yeah. And, to him it was probably just, well, if the gimmick doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It's no biggie. So he could do it with a bit more carelessness, if you like, which made it look less awkward.
Right, yeah. I feel like this Bob Holly and Triple H should have been scrapped. This probably should have gone on second. I know that's crazy because it's Bret, but I mean, you got 2 gimmick matches on the show. You got Shawn and Taker on this card also, plus Razor, who's no slouch as far as popularity himself, and Diesel. Bret should have totally gone on second, and I feel like the crowd wouldn't have been so goddamn dog shit dead for this. You could have heard a pin drop for this match.
Yeah, it was boring. It was slow. It was not Bret's finest hour on pay-per-view.
You will never see this on a Bret Hart compilation Blu-ray ever.
No, never, ever. And there's a reason for that. Like, I mean, like, give Isaac Yankem / Glenn Jacobs his due. He did a few bits well, but them few bits that he did well weren't enough to pad out the runtime of this match.
I think the potentness of the stink of the gimmick was so strong. Sometimes gimmicks like that, you could go out there and just have a clinic and it's not going to matter. You're just
Yeah,
so dead on arrival with gimmick, you know?
yeah.
It doesn't help that we got 12 minutes of the most slow and brooding bullshit with this finish on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What are you gonna? I want to say that Bret did the best with the very minimal tools that he had,
I think
but
Brett totally phoned this the fuck in, personally. This was not the Brett that I'm accustomed to seeing. I think that this was kind of like a Lunger Blaze, salty, I deserve better than this fucking kind of deal at the end of the day. That's the Brett I saw.
I mean, maybe there was a bit of that, but maybe there was also a bit of, do you know what? I want this storyline with Lawler over with, so I'll just paint by numbers wrestling until it's done. And the end was just hideous.
For anyone not aware, who's seeing pictures right now, Brett gets his head caught, and well, he doesn't get it caught on his own. Him and Isaac Yankem, Jerry Lawler, who jumps up from commentary, twists his head in the top two ropes, kind of like Mankind would get stuck, and just beat
Yeah,
the shit out of him. This was at the time one of the most shocking, violent things in the company, where it almost killed Brett. And Vince was losing his goddamn mind on commentary. I will say that Vince tried to get it over.
yeah, he tried, but 12 minutes of slow, sluggish wrestling for a DQ finish. I felt cheated, and I think the fans felt cheated as well.
For sure, there were boos and I think a subtle bullshit chant. And this is pay per view. This is your second biggest show of the year, and it was Brett. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
it is,
totally.
it is what it is. Obviously, Isaac Yankem will go into bigger and better things, hands down. But it's interesting to see where some of these guys started out. You know,
Yeah, I mean, who can forget Fake Diesel?
I like to forget that every day. Actually,
Oh dear.
we are almost through it, Matt. Where are we at now?
We are at Doc Hendricks again and Razor Ramon. He says his history will repeat itself, and I think Razor, he loved healing it up here. He looked more like a heel. He sounded more like a heel,
Worked like a heel.
and yeah, and I think it would have probably done him good had he turned heel at the end of this ladder match, because I just felt like after, what was it, 2 and a bit years as a babyface, I felt mid 95 the character was looking for a new direction.
Can we talk about the elephant in the room in this promo and the best part of it, or are we just not going to mention it?
Go on.
Do you remember?
No, go on.
Razor's just cutting his promo, and a lot of promos back then are pre-taped. This one was actually live because after he cut the promo, you'd see him literally go through the tunnel, and that was very rare and cool at the time. While he was cutting this, starting to talk, all of a sudden Bret Hart, injured, walks by with two referees right in front of the camera view, and Razor just stops and gives this dumbfounded look, and it was funny as shit.
Yes, I do remember that now you mention it. Yes. I mean,
I don't
it
know
was
if that was
nice.
planned or on the spot, or I don't know what it was, but I'm glad it happened.
Oh, me too. I think that was Bret just like, do you know what? I don't care if the cameras are rolling. I'm hurt. Fuck them.
If it was planned too, I don't know what they were thinking. Like, they're trying to drive home the fact that Bret's really hurt and anything can happen. It's realistic, because by doing that, you just took a lot of thunder from this guy trying to cut a promo for the second biggest match on the card and got him thinking about Bret Hart again. So I don't get it. I don't get why that happened.
I think Scott Hall carried it off well, though. Interruption aside, I think he looked like a heel during this, and like I said, I would have liked to have seen a heel Razor Ramon with all the experience that he'd already had. Because when he came in '93, he was the Diamond Stud beforehand.
Right.
He hadn't really had that main. What the fuck am I trying to say? He didn't have that main exposure. He'd already had the 2.5 years prior. So all the experience really of that main WWF stage, So I think a 95 heel Razor would have been better and different to the 93 heel Razor.
The only reason I'm going to disagree is because if he did that, we wouldn't have got that amazing Goldust feud. But honestly, the Goldust feud did nothing for Razor's career, so it's kind of a catch-22, pick your poison kind of thing.
Are you ready for the ladder?
The Goldust feud, it totally helped Goldust more than Razor, in my opinion, hands down.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, from what I remember from that feud, I don't think Scott Hall really put his heart into the Goldust feud. I think he obviously knew that he was, away later in the year, and
well, he hated that. He hated the angle too. It made him uncomfortable. He's come out and said in an interview.
Yeah. So didn't give it his all. Wasn't there probably mentally. Had his eye on bigger and better things. So just wasn't his finest hour. But just imagine what he could have done, for Dustin Rhodes and that character, even more so than he did if he'd have been fully on board with it.
I'm kind of intrigued too, because if they would have turned him heel in this era, we could have got to see him go back to that Diesel feud, but the roles are reversed. Hell, we could have even gone back to that Bret and Razor feud when Razor was heel. Those two always had good matches together.
Oh yeah, I mean that would have been a nice dynamic, like to see Diesel versus Razor for the WWF title, but with the roles reversed. But
exactly.
These things weren't to be, sadly.
Let's do it, man. Let's get down to business and sink our teeth in my opinion, and this might shock you, my all-time favorite ladder match. I like it better than their first. I like it better than the Hardy Boys matches. I like it better than any other ladder match because it was simplistic and it told a fucking story as opposed to car crash, car crash, car crash, car crash, no sell, no sell. Razor and Shawn 2. This match wasn't even initially supposed to happen. It was supposed to be Sid and Shawn, but because ratings were in the tank, like we talked about last month, Vince was so desperate to creatively shake shit up. Jim Tunney got the axe, and kayfabe, and Gorilla Monsoon, the most fan-friendly president ever, as I call him, was brought in, and he made all this weird shit, all these baby faces and baby face matches, heel and heel matches. And this was the first real shake-up Monsoon did. And at the time, as a kid, this was fucking awesome. It was fresh. Because very rarely did we get a babyface versus a babyface match.
No, we didn't. Like you said, and for the time, for the lack of creativity, this was just wow, mind blown. I will say that this match started with a very annoyed Shawn Michaels, who just lost his temper when they couldn't get the height of the belt right. Did you catch that?
Oh my God. Could that belt have been any higher, by the way? Even Vince on commentary had to say, you'd have to be Andre the Giant with the rocket on your back to reach that.
I just looked at Shawn, just looking up at that belt, and then it came down a bit, and they adjusted it, and it went back up to the same height, and then they brought it down, and Shawn just ripped the belt off of the hook and just reattached it and just went, get it back up.
Well, you know what it was? I think the official was Mike Chioda. He put the belt on there wrong. He put the belt on there with like the strap buttons on the top of it, so it was kind of hanging like an O. Whereas when they hang it, usually it's hanging like clothes on a hanger, so it hangs down so you can grab it. That's what the issue was. I don't think the actual string was too high. It was just the way he put the belt on, and you could see the stress on that referee because he started sweating bullets, man, literally. And Shawn just gave him the business. It was funny as shit. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I totally forgot about that.
I think he could see Shawn looking at him at the corner of his eye, and he's like, get it right this time or you're in trouble.
Yeah, like when he shoehorned the belt up there, Shawn did it himself and stuff. Felt like he did it with his thumb, like, get it up there and shit. And you could literally see him mouth like, idiot, at the referee. It was so good. What did you think about this one-time only Shawn in blue? I love it. It's one of my favorite Shawn outfits. We talk about Shawn outfits every time we talk about them, so let's do it.
Yes, I loved the outfit. It wore it once, sort of just dates it, so that makes it special to that one event, and I like that. Usually wrestlers just wear the same thing, or the same thing for several events, and it's fine.
You know what?
I
love when Shawn does it as opposed to the modern era guys, because Shawn Michaels isn't cosplaying as a fucking Marvel superhero for a paper. He's being himself, his gear.
And it was a
It's one of my
one-time
biggest
only
pet
year.
peeves in modern wrestling is this comic book obsession. I love comics, but come on. It's making you guys
Yeah.
look like fucking dorks. Johnny Gargano looking right at you.
I
Sorry.
never thought you'd take a pop at Johnny Gargano on this show.
I
But
don't
there
like
we
his
are, first time
either.
visiting.
So there's two. I like him better as
There's
babyface.
two.
This isn't an NXT review. Let's go back to Shawn.
Yes. You can look back at SummerSlam and that was the one time he wore that attire, and I like it. It's special to that event, and nice. And it's on. I've put it in Fire Pro as faithfully as I could get it. So
I did the same exact thing. And speaking of comics, when they'd start releasing like Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimate X-Men, for what it's worth, Razor's gear in this was kind of like Ultimate Razor. Like he adjusted his gear too. It kind of jumped out a little bit. Like he added some layering to the razors on it, had some purple with the gold. It was a new look for his gear. I love that also.
yeah, and I don't think he wore that again afterwards, to my recollection. I mean, he might have worn it on the Superstars or whatever, but I don't
Yeah.
recall him wearing it on any pay-per-view he was on afterwards.
Enough about what the guys are wearing or belts that are fucked up on the pole. What did you think of this actual match, Matt?
I thought it was excellent. It wasn't your standard ladder match. It was more wrestling with a ladder involved rather than a ladder match with wrestling involved, if you see what I'm saying.
Young Bucks.
Yeah, exactly. Though I'm going to be, not that I call anything the Young Bucks do wrestling, it's stunt show, but this was an actual wrestling match with a ladder
even
in the middle.
even how the match started with the subtle, both guys started the match when the bell rang on opposite sides of the ring looking up at the belt, and they kept taking little baby steps more and more until they were right in front of each other, and then they slowly looked down at each other, and that was so beautiful, just that little touch. And that is goddamn fucking professional wrestling psychology storytelling. Now guys, I don't want to talk about him. I got to do it because it's relevant. AEW, we just had this quote blood feud with Lance Archer and Cody, where Lance Archer attacked or Jake the Snake molested his wife and Lance was beating up his brother. They started out the match with transitions and they just went right into it. There was no stare down. That you would never think it was a grudge match. Guys today they want to impress fucking Tuna Meltzer and Alvarez so bad with their 5-star
Yeah,
clinics. We've forgotten how to tell stories completely.
yeah, completely agree. I don't even think the majority of quote unquote wrestlers know how to weave that sort of psychology into a match anymore. It's either
Dominant.
it's either start the match at 100 miles an hour with no story, or you start a match slow and plodding when it actually should be an all-out brawl with no story. So, yeah.
Yep. I'll go back to those three one more time. I got to talk about them. Those three knuckleheads in the front row hated Shawn Michaels with a passion. They were so loud for Razor in this match. When the whole entire arena was booing Razor, those three guys loved everything Razor did. And you're right, Razor did some dirty 1993 type Razor shit, some nasty shots with the ladder. And the comment Vince and Lawler did a good job on commentary talking about how this is a different side of Razor and the title does this to guys and blah blah blah. The one spot in the match that now it blows my mind that he was able to pull it off, and then my God, my head exploded, was that fucking moonsault off the ladder from Shawn. Unbelievable that he was able to pull that off flawlessly.
Yeah. I think I was more impressed with Shawn Michaels here than I was against Jeff Jarrett, and we both loved that Jeff Jarrett match In Your House too. But I think here, with the moonsault, and he went to another level to entertain.
It's that, and I mean, Scott Hall was a good worker for a man his size, but we talked about it last episode. Jeff Jarrett and Shawn Michaels were almost carbon copies of each other in ring
Yeah,
style at the time. So, I mean, it was kind of impossible for those two to have a bad match. Shawn had to put a little bit of extra to have a good match with Razor and Diesel and guys like that. So, I agree. I agree. I think matches like this on the resume of Shawn Michaels is exactly why. I mean, obviously he's called the showstopper and one of the greatest of all time. There's just some things you can't argue. And I know people like to pick sides with Bret and Shawn, but it always pisses me off when just because people take the side of Bret a lot, they always kind of downplay the things that Shawn brought to the table and just his fucking his work, his body of work, flat out. You can't deny
Yeah,
it.
no, you can't. And you know what? He was a great seller as well, and you
Yeah.
saw that in this match, like with the leg trapped between the ladder and the back and the missed moves, and he might not make it. He did a wonderful job of making you believe that he wasn't going to be able to finish the match, let alone beat Razor for the title. And all credit, you know, to Shawn for doing that, because 1995 Shawn Michaels could have just either phoned it in or made it the same carbon copy of their WrestleMania 10 match, but they didn't. Both of them, Shawn more so, I think, went to greater lengths, to make it memorable.
And people can always make the argument to, whoa, it's his buddy in the clique. Of course he's going to work hard for him. No, 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 no. Because at WrestleMania 11, Shawn purposely botched that jackknife and blew Diesel up in that match to make him look like shit. It's business.
Yeah,
It's cutthroat.
it is. And Shawn knew how to do politics and business well. Whatever you want to take from that, whether it was sabotaging one of his friends or making another of his friends look like $1 million.
Yep. With that, after an amazing struggle, and God, this match went like, what, 20, 25 minutes at least?
I think it clocked in at 25 and a half minutes.
There you go. Shawn Michaels retains. The crowd lost their minds. And I also want to bring up that I feel like Shawn Michaels is never in the conversation enough where he's one of those guys that's just as good of a baby face as he is a heel. Like you go either way with him.
Oh, absolutely. I will bring up though, Travis, that he did botch the end twice,
He
I
did.
believe, when he he missed the jump to the belt, and then they had to improvise and do a backdrop over the top, and then he botched it again by falling without the title,
Like
and
his
it
hand
pissed him off
slipped.
so much.
Yeah, like he
Yeah,
pulled
he
the
felt.
belt, but that belt was like super glued. It wasn't letting go.
Oh my god, the mini temper he had at the end, throwing around the ladders.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and for what it's worth, Razor should have been self-aware, Shawn, to at least do one more spot. I mean, Razor just laid down that whole time.
Yeah, yeah. But do you know what? That's a very minor gripe, and I don't think for me it didn't affect the I was going to say the main event. It should have been the main event, but it didn't affect the match at all. It was first class for both men.
I've seen interviews where Shawn Michaels actually hates this ladder match just because of the finish. It was very embarrassing for him, he said.
I mean,
Ruined the
I can
whole
see,
fucking experience.
I could see that. You've had a really good match, and obviously, he's only just turned babyface as well a few months before, so he wants to get it right and he wants to get it perfect. And I suppose you could say he was a perfectionist in the ring most times. So to botch to botch the end twice in front of a live audience, he probably does have bad memories of it.
Is what it is. One of my favorite ladder match and one of the best matches in any SummerSlam. Right here. Go out of your way to catch this.
Yeah, yeah. The only problem, Travis, is the end where you get the slow realization of what the main event is up next.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're at this amazing party all night, you're drunk as shit, you're having the best time, and then you wake up in the morning and you feel like death. Kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But before that, we got the Razor Ramon Dean Douglas on the set of their feud. Razor attacked him almost backstage after a little confrontation.
For what it's worth, I will give Dean Douglas this. I loved the heel line in this. Like, this is a classroom, pal. We don't need any violence in it. And that shot from Razor was a stiff, snug son of a bitch. What a punch. He has one
Yeah.
of the most underrated working punches of all time, in my opinion, Razor.
Do you think it's a punch? I thought it was more of a slap the way he delivered it, like almost like the Rock's, but stiffer.
Well, I think just because it's a worked punch, especially when there's no crowd and it's all audio like that and zoomed in, you can kind of
Mm.
see how the curtains pulled back and how they, pull their punches. Well, I think that was a case of that.
What did you think? I mean, we'll get obviously into the feud in the next couple of months in your houses, etc. But do you think it was the right call to put Razor in a feud with Shane Douglas, or do you think Shane Douglas needed like a few jobbers to go over first to build him up to Razor's level?
As plans come and go, plans will go awry. And if things would have gone off without a hitch, yeah, because he would beat Razor in your house, would be the stepping stone to get that IC title shot at in your house in October. But Shawn got beat
Yeah.
up, quote, by those 10 Marines, and Douglas was supposed to be. I don't even know what the finish was supposed to be, but that was the end game, and I feel like that just fucked everything up for Douglas.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. God,
But we can't say that Dean Douglas never won a belt. He did win the IC belt technically for 20 minutes.
God, do you know what? I even forgot it was for 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm. We'll get there. 2 episodes from now, we'll get there.
How they shafted him, but not as much as they shafted us, Travis, with the main event of SummerSlam.
Dun 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 dun. The worst match we have ever reviewed in the history of our 3.5 years doing this. Mabel Diesel world title main event. Main event. King of the Ring. Shoots. Oh my God. SummerSlam '95. Where do we start? Where the fuck do we even begin with this?
So I actually liked the fact that they didn't give this a video package to hype it up. It was just like even they knew what a train wreck this was, and so they wanted it over as quick as possible. So they didn't bother with any hype for it. They just threw it on.
Seeing Kevin Nash in 1995 sell a punch from anybody is cringe. Utter fucking cringe. He tries to do this weird hair whip, but not. Do you ever notice like every move Diesel either does or takes, he fucking adjusts his hair or tries to make it
Yeah.
not make it mess his hair up, and it's so fucking distracting. Completely.
I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't even argue with that.
I don't get the logic in this match. I don't. None. It's okay to have giants go to war sometimes. It's okay to tease the fact that how's he going to beat him if he can't use the jackknife? I don't know. At least with Sid, he powerbombed him. At least Sid could actually powerbomb Diesel. At least there was some sort of payoff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's nobody wins in this situation. It doesn't make Diesel look any stronger because you just beat one half of a joke tag team for the last 2 years who's just gotten a push now for the past 2 months. And the guy who just got a rocket strap just got all the fuel taken out of that rocket within 2 months. Nobody won in this. And obviously the fans didn't win. Vince sure the fuck didn't win. And the elephant in the room in this, when Mabel did that sit down on Diesel's back, that literally injured Diesel's back, and Mabel right after this match got fired, and then Diesel stepped in and said, no, you're not firing him, Vince. Vince went backstage and fired Mabel after this match. Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, he could have broke Kevin Nash's back.
Oh my God.
Like,
could put him in a wheelchair.
He could have ended his career and paralyzed him. And there was no finesse about it. If you go back and look, not that, we're encouraging anyone, Travis, to go back and watch this fiasco of a match. No. But yeah, if you were to go back and watch it, there's no wrestling finesse about it. He just drops just straight onto Kevin Nash's lower back, and I'm surprised he didn't suffer more injuries than he ended up coming away with, because that was fucking brutal.
God rest his soul, but it's also up there with one of those, what the fuck was the point of that? What were you thinking? With obviously Owen Hart in the tombstone to Steve Austin. Owen Hart had never done that move before. He didn't properly make sure Steve's head was tucked. The Undertaker's finish was that, so it made no sense for that to be just a semi-move in the match. I don't understand why that was needed. I don't understand why this was needed. Especially when Mabel would beat guys with a fucking leg drop.
exactly. You could have hit him with a leg drop to the back of the head, but just some rate, this near 600-pound man just dropping on this. And Kevin Nash at the time wasn't fat. He was lean.
Yeah,
If
it's all
anything,
muscle.
could have snapped him in half, Travis. That could have been one of the great disasters of professional wrestling.
People think that I'm just being funny, haha, or Matt's being funny, haha, or any of my friends on social media when we compare King Mabel and Nia Jax. And the reason we do that is the careless recklessness, not knowing your own strength is what immediately reminds me of King Mabel with Nia Jax. How many times have we seen Nia Jax just do the most boneheaded, unneeded shit? Like, what the fuck were you thinking? And it's right there, right with Mabel. The same thing. Nothing that that shit with Kairi Sane, that you could have taken that out of the match and it would have been fine. It wasn't the finish. It wasn't anything that played like an injury angle. Nothing. It was unneeded and it was reckless and it was bullshit that the woman wasn't punished at all, especially since this was like literally the 6th or 7th time. See, when Mabel kept injuring guys eventually, he was fucking fired. He was let go. He was punished. He broke the Undertaker's literal face, and they fired him 3 months later. This woman is related to the biggest movie star in the fucking world. And if you can't recognize that that's why nothing ever happens to her, she's never depushed, you're a blind, in denial, fucking moron and a mark. I'm sorry. That's why Nia Jax is in the spot she is. Mabel wasn't related to the big cat Ernie Ladd. Now, if he was, he'd probably still be there today if he was still alive.
Yeah, completely true.
I just don't know what else to say about this abortion of a match. You got anything? I really need a second to collect myself. Go ahead.
Well, we got a ref bump. Sir Mo, I should say, was in for the double team, and then comes Lex Luger, tearing down the aisle, and then for no reason, Diesel attacks him for no reason. I mean, I'm assuming the story was Diesel didn't know whether Luger was gonna, side with the Bulldog and etc. But that should have been the Bulldog, followed by Lex Luger, and then you have a blow off between the Allied powers in your house before Luger moves on. That would have been the ideal situation, but they wanted to build Bulldog and Davey. But I say they wanted to build Bulldog and Davey, for fuck's sake. It's late. Bulldog and Diesel. But we I fucking no, I know what I was gonna say. Here it is. We didn't even get Davey Boy here, even though he was meant to be backstage. I would have preferred that as an ending, and then Mabel just walk off into the locker room to leave Davey Boy attacking Diesel. Match ends in a DQ. It makes sense.
I know we're already both completely exhausted, spent, and nauseous from this pay-per-view and match. But before the injury thing in this match with Mabel and he was fired, and before Lex left for the company, would you like to ask me what the main event of the Next in Your House was supposed to be? Because I know what the next month's main event was going to be. It was going to be Mabel and the Bulldog versus Lex. Big Daddy Cool. Could you imagine?
Jesus.
Thank God we went with the main event they did give us, with the winner take all the titles on the line. That was all right, but my God.
I can't imagine another Mabel main event at all. Just at all. Whether it be with the Bulldog, in a tag team match, we didn't have to do anything. Just, no. And
How long did this match go, Matt? Sorry to cut you off.
Must have been 9 minutes, if that.
Was 8.5 minutes of this match spent in a fucking bear hug, or was it just me?
Yes, I think it was. Oh dear.
We've reviewed some shit on this show, and sometimes you can't help but peek at the train wreck. Don't ever go out of your way to watch 2 seconds of this match. Don't, unless it's the highlight of Mabel sitting on Diesel. Don't ever watch this match. Don't.
Yeah, hideous. trash.
It's a public
And,
service announcement. Don't ever watch it.
It's probably one of the first times, Travis, I've been glad to say we can move on from that now, and we never have to mention it ever again.
This match was the heavyweight reigning champion of the worst match on pay-per-view in the history of the WWF for like 25 years until last year when it was dethroned by The Undertaker and Bill Goldberg. And with that, we have reached the end of SummerSlam 95, and Injured Diesel celebrating in the ring, blah, blah, blah. No confetti because it was Mabel, but what do you grade Dean Douglas? Do you grade it S for slacker? What do you grade it? SummerSlam 95.
I'm gonna give it a C minus, and that's being generous. The ladder match, the opening match, that's it for me. That was the show.
D plus. It's passable because the ladder match and the opening match, some funny bits, some unintentional bits. Bret walking in front of Razor, Shawn, not being able to rip the belt down at the ref. None of that could salvage the shittiness that was this show. The fact that you've got Bret and The Undertaker on the same card and that's what you do with them blows my mind to this day. I can't imagine why the business was at an all-time low. Can't imagine. It's you flip the channel to WCW at the time, it's mind-boggling that Nitro was still losing in the ratings. How was that possible still? Was it just people's repetition and just I'm so used to tuning in. That's my brand. I think it was brand loyalty at that point for what fans they had left. There's no reason WCW is featuring Jushin Liger, Brian Pillman, all this shit, Dungeon of Doom, but we can get around that. This entire show felt like a Dungeon of Doom angle for the most part, and that's what just blows my mind about it, that it took the NWO for WCW to finally start beating them.
Yeah, it did. And I think if people want a exhibits of WWE's lack of creativity in 95, King of the Ring, SummerSlam, there it is.
But In Your House 2 is still fucking awesome in my book. Until next time, Matt, one more time. We've done it! The summer of terror is over, but oh God, we're showing up at the doorstep of fucking Vince McMahon's house for like the next 2 years. Oh God, up next month, In Your House 3, September 95. Until then, where can everyone catch you?
As always, on Twitter at The Perfect Tenant. Log on to unionsmack.bigcartel.com where you can grab the new Union Smack World Tour t-shirt and a official t-shirt from every one of Travis's shows. And more updates on the book to come, but it's looking like lulu.com. Fingers crossed. And I'll be a happy man once all this shit is off my shoulders.
Oh yeah, man. Thank you for staying up so late. Longest episode we've had in a while through the trenches of this year's SummerSlam. Until next time, on Twitter at TheBickyTND. That red button down below on YouTube. Subscribe. All the goodness, retro gaming, pro wrestling, heavy metal podcast, Terry Bollea's bullshit, everything in between. Monday Night Melee on Broken Optics YouTube channel. Catch me over there. Like Matt said, unionsmack.bigcartel.com. Get a shirt. Get all that stuff. Until next time, Union Smack. Cheerio, mates.